The Egyptian pyramids that you see here. Maybe the pyramids really give Egypt, the country that possesses them, a headache, because so far, even Egypt, the government has taken action against these landmarks in their country. It still exists in a state of not knowing. So that the pyramid to the end, was it built by the ancient Egyptians? And the purpose of building these pyramids? Until now, their ancient Egyptian ancestors never left a word for them. What's even more embarrassing is everything about the inside of the pyramid. Mathematical and astronomical information than the knowledge they currently have. Even more ahead of time. Let's take a look today. The legendary 7 wonders of the world. Is the Khufu pyramid really as officially speculated? It was built by the ancient Egyptians at that time. Then on July 31st, 2020, there was once a netizen who dreamt of going to Mars. Posted in Twitter. Personal perspective on this issue. And this online friend but is Elon Musk, who is officially known as the father of modern industry. Twitter in a few simple and clear English words. Said obviously. The claim that aliens built the pyramids. Although this statement does not exist. What's the scientific basis? But it was just on Twitter. It has about 40 million followers, Elon Musk. His influence is vast compared to ordinary people, so much so that Egyptian government officials at the time very quickly responded to such remarks from Musk. This is what the government official told Musk. If Mr. Musk, you are against if there is any doubt about the construction of the pyramid, then I now sincerely invite you to Egypt, visit the local area, and show you the tomb of the pyramid builder. In that case, perhaps you will learn more about us in Egypt. Historical culture. So, this statement, which attracted much attention from the outside world at the time, proved this is what your ancestors built. And so far, you haven't. The ability to build a whole new pyramid. Isn't it? And, as you said, the tomb of the pyramid builder. Then why, in your ancient Egyptian civilization, then nothing is left about building the pyramids? And lions, what about historical evidence of physical appearance? In addition to these forces, except for netizens who support Musk's remarks, the pyramid is in the impression of humans. Also, and it was filled with lots of weird things. Like the sensational Pharaoh's curse. Or is it built? The engineering difficulty of building the pyramids themselves. And let's start with the Pharaoh's curse. Speaking of, because whenever it comes to ancient Egyptian culture, this topic, it's a topic that cannot be avoided. Therefore, whether archaeologists or tourists, many people are under such curiosity. Lost life. And the earlier statement. Many people believe that pyramids, it was the purpose of burying the pharaohs at that time, but now, friends who focus on ancient Egyptian civilization know. The actual burial place for the pharaohs is the Valley of the Kings, and the whole time inside the pyramid. Never found a single one that missed. Not to mention a mummy of a pharaoh. It is also possible that the original pyramid it is indeed the final destination of the pharaohs of all ages. But maybe at that time, grave robbers, it's too rampant. Finally, these pharaohs were unified. We put them in the Valley of the Kings. And among them was the curse of the pharaoh. Can't fail to mention one. What happened in April 1989? At that time, there was a British tourist named Harold. He's actually working. Staff are not the only case. Climbed up the seat quietly without authorization, the top of the pyramid of Khufu. And not only that, the madman is still climbing. 1/3 of the distance. With the following visitors and tour guides. Shout and show off. But no matter how much the people below tried to dissuade him, He is also
Then go
still.
your own way and climb to the top of your destination. Climb until about 2 hours later. The tourists in Pharaoh have finally reached the top. And at this moment, the bottom, there's already a lot of police and paramedics. In other words, the locals, even the police. No one caught up to stop it. Stop this tourist. And just this tourist, 10 minutes after successfully reaching the top of the pyramid, but suddenly fell without warning, ultimately resulting in immediate death. The little friends who see here, probably not, love the tourist's suicide. However, subsequent incident reports revealed that. But the truth is something that makes us think about it and feel terrified, because it turns out that the tourist fell to his death before has lost vital signs. And that led to his death. It's because the location shouldn't be strict, caused by a heavy impact. What makes us even more cold sweat is, after the tourist fell, almost every bone in the body are in a broken state. Then you should also know, every normal person has no more or no less these 206 bones, so that all 206 bones are broken. Today, in all high-altitude fall deaths, he's the only one. So about that, can be considered local. The government exaggerates the propaganda in order to warn future generations. It's still as described in the rumors. Is this punishment from the Pharaoh's alignment? And according to the current records, due to climbing the pyramids, the number of deaths has reached more than 1,600. Even in these cases, many of the deceased were originally suicidal. To this place, that aside from these bizarre events, in fact, these are even, of course, a pyramid could never have been born. Was it built by humans? And the poetry collection of these buildings, what is it for? It's still impossible to study until now. And whether it is construction, the difficulty he requires, or exist in the pyramid, internal related technologies, knowledge is relevant today. A huge shock for scientists. Because you may not be able to imagine. In the beginning, those people built these pyramids apply to acquire more than currently advanced knowledge of astronomy and mathematics, because in 1949 at that time, a German mathematician confirmed it. Use the inside of the pyramid, measured digital data. The radius of the Earth can be easily calculated. Volume and density. It also includes various celestial bodies in the sun, running time in the department. It even includes the life cycles of Earth's males and females. And in 1951, France, one of the scholars even pointed out that skincare pyramid is still very likely contains the equations for making an atomic bomb. And not only that, if you use the height of the pyramid multiplied by 10 to the 9th power, calculated answer. But it is precisely the approximate distance between the Earth and the Sun. And what makes scientists even more satisfied is that the height and circumference of the pyramid, it is also the radius of the Earth and the circumference of the Earth. So use it twice as high as the bottom edge. You can obtain the value of pi. And it's even more exaggerated. The precision can reach the decimal point. 15 digits. So here it is. You will think, the ancient Egyptians at that time were really so exquisite. Extraordinary ability. What if they really had? Then why is it now lose such ability? So let's leave it at that. Let's put aside these factors that may just be coincidence. Because just build the largest Khufu. The manpower required for the pyramid, exaggerated to reach 3 to 40,000 people. Here's the thing. According to the current mainstream speculation, the pyramid of Khufu was built at that time, around 2560 BC. The entire population of ancient Egyptian civilization, about 30,000 people. That is to say, if these speculations don't differ much,
the population of the country at that time was involved in the construction of the Pyramid of Khufu? Is it in the project, therefore, for the current us? That's just not very realistic. After all, just from the difficulty of construction doesn't mean. And this was a project that many people could do. The first 10 blocks required to build the Pyramid of Khufu. That's about 2.35 million. Small ones weigh 2 to 3 tons, and the heaviest piece, it reaches about 65 tons. And here's the thing. These heaviest stones, it's more than 50 meters off the ground. That is to say, converted to the current residential building the floor height is about 2.8 meters, if calculated. These stones weighing more than 60 tons were ancient at that time. What methods did the ancient Egyptians use? Delivered to nearly the current 16-story building. And at the moment, we are in the knowledge of ancient Egyptian civilization. They also did not leave any. What are the main tools for building pyramids? So currently, the experts are extrapolate to possibilities for building a pyramid. Then next, let's start with the first method. And this construction method, also known as the soil slope accumulation method, the so-called earth slope theory. It was built next to the pyramid. A dirt slope, therefore, due to the height of the pyramid, carrying these huge and heavy stones up. But you hear this. I probably don't want to hear it anymore. Due to the current height of the entire Pyramid of Khufu, it has reached about 150 meters, so that the higher the pile, the greater the security risk. Because the slope of the soil slope will also get bigger and bigger at this time. So the architects calculated. If such an approach had been adopted at that time, the angle of this slope, it must not exceed 4 degrees. But even though the angle of the slope is about a reasonable 4 degrees, this would also mean the total length of the slope. It's an incredible 2.5 kilometers. So you would think, move away from the mining market to this slope. In addition to the labor cost, these ancient Egyptians at that time, and such strength, go and build these up to a few tons, bit by bit, to tens of tons, unequal stones. Do you pull up 2.5 kilometers at a time? And not to mention that the main building objects are pyramids. Even this slope, which eventually rises to about 150 meters in height, already needed a few stones as a support point, laying and stacking up piece by piece. And suppose the ancient Egyptians at that time really have such upright perseverance. It also needs to be in the case of no sleep for 20 years. In 3 minutes, just complete the transportation of a boulder and placed in the predetermined placement. And this data, modern mathematicians, through the construction data of the pyramid, and what needs to be built, calculated 4 slopes up to 150 meters. So some famous architects followed. For such a soil slope accumulation method modified and explained. They believe that when the pyramids were built, it does require the use of soil slopes to deliver stones, but it mainly uses the building part of the soil slope. It's the base of the pyramid. That's 1/3 the height of the pyramid. And in the subsequent 2/3 construction projects, they will build a circle on the inside of the pyramid, swirling corridor. Therefore, only in stone by stone, in the case of passing through this corridor, to complete the construction of the pyramid. However, such a supplement, it also cannot avoid its own steepness problem. And from start to finish, the so-called roundabout corridor, it has not been detected by advanced detection equipment. Therefore, the second construction theory I'm going to describe, perhaps more reasonable than the former. The second construction theory, it's water buoyancy stacking. The builders at that time, first it will be at the bottom of the Pyramid of Khufu, dig into an 8-kilometer artificial river, and dig this artificial river. The reason is that it can be directly connected to the Nile River, 8 kilometers away. After the river
People in the cutting group will turn huge limestone after cutting the volume placed at the inlet of the Nile. And this time, people in the transport team, they would tie inflated animal hides to these stones already in the Nile and on the stone at the water inlet, so that after the high tide of the Nile, these inflated hides will utilize the buoyancy effect. So these huge and heavy limestone, it will also respond to the role of welfare, slowly rise to the surface. Then the transport team will be divided into N groups. Using one animal per person, they used ropes to attach the animals to the stones. Therefore, this person, in the case of repelling animals, causing these stones weighing hundreds of tons. In the case of saving people and effort, the purpose of transportation for several kilometers can be achieved, and during this transportation process, these sentence patterns will pass through one water after another that has been designed, break device, batch by batch. Water is pushed to the construction site of the pyramid, and these stones arrive. After the designated location of the pyramid, it will be shipped in batches to the four corners of the pyramid, and this time, each face will have a ladder shaft that extends upward. So in the case of water storage through the gate, fill these stairwells with water. This utilizes the inflated hides to reduce the weight of the bolt, and the hydraulic increase or decrease of the sluice system achieve accurate positioning. Therefore, through human resources, place the boulders in the predetermined pile, square position, the height that the shadow then builds. Workers will also carry rice for 4 weeks. The outer wall of the ladder well is stacked. This is for transportation higher up the boulder net, prepared in advance. Therefore, in the case of such repetition, by deflating the hides, the boulder will settle under its own gravity. It has accurately arrived at its own placement, and the water, floating and stacking method described above. The architects have indeed conducted many small experiments, prove that this method works. The greatest difficulty with this theory, it's about waterproofing. Therefore, current architects, the most reasonable way to give is cover the bottom layer of the structure with clay first, overlay through multiple layers of animal skins, and finally, the top layer is then covered with natural asphalt. Therefore, the best waterproof effect is achieved. So in ancient Egypt at that time, they are so great. Did the big construction work? Then you here, and they're largely silent about it. Give a nod. But in fact, any construction traces described above have not been found. That is to say, if these pyramids are really ancient, and what man has built, they may have a construction method, or they were just following the method given by others. Follow the arrangement and carry out the prison construction. That video is at the end. It turns out that when archaeologists entered the pyramid, also found a very mysterious set of numbers. Those factors. You can also open the meter on your phone, computer mini program. Go test this string of numbers, because it turns out that behind this seemingly ordinary string of numbers may be hidden, hide the greatest secret in this world. Therefore, if the number is multiplied from the first time to 6, you will find these 6 numbers. It's just a change in location. But again, or is it a number group composed of these 6 numbers? If you are in front of the screen, know the secret of these numbers. You can also share it through the comment area. And finally, thank you for watching, guys. Knowing is not easy. You might as well give a little love to reward the author. See you next time.